Hey guys, just want to do a quick trade breakdown for the EURUSD short trade that was taken on Friday just gone. So this is the overall trade. I only took 4% from this. I wasn't trying to target any further, but this actual trade, I wasn't supposed to be in this one when it activated. I was interested in it first thing in the morning, which was around about 8 o'clock in the morning UK time. But when this trade actually activated, I shouldn't actually have been in this according to my trading plan, and I'll come on to the reasons why in a moment. But I just want to give you an idea of my thought process whilst taking this trade. So this the outlook for this trade idea was sent into the Discord server first thing in the morning to show everyone what I was looking at and why I was looking at taking this particular trade. But what my thought process is this. So this was the Asia session. So this box here was the Asia session for Friday morning UK time, and then obviously this is where London has then opened for the day on Friday. So what I was looking at, we had a little bit of very steady order flow pushing up here, and we then had a shift in market structure. This shift in market structure is more visible on the 1 minute time frame, and we then had this breaker structure here. So this was showing me that there was some sort of commitment or some intent to push to the downside. So when I saw this, what I was then looking for was to see what is there left to mitigate and what has already been mitigated. So what we can see here, this solid line here, this represents a mitigation from this point. So where we've had this shift in market structure, we then had price push back up, we've mitigated this point and continue pushing to the downside. So I then looked to the left to see what else was left to be mitigated, if anything, and we can see we've had this bit of price action here is tapped into this area around here. So this has already been mitigated. This point, we've had a mitigation from this. This would have been a little bit clearer on the 1 minute, but I wasn't too focused on that. We then can see we had a mitigation from this point here. This POI here is not a very strong POI, but it was still a mitigation. We can see prices pushed to the downside. We've broken past this wick here, and we've then had a pullback and mitigated this point and then continued down. So these are the mitigations that I was looking at, and then we can see that we do have the Asia highs. We had sort of like equal highs around this point here. We can see this sort of level, we had some equal highs. Let's just mark this out. There we go. Some equal highs there. It's a bit more visible. We had some reasoning for price to sweep the Asia highs and then continue back to the downside. So this is what I was looking at. I then had this POI just here. So this is the area that I was actually looking at. And this is on the 3 minute chart, by the way. So the reason it's the 3 minute chart, it might seem a bit random to some people, but when I was looking at the 5 minute or even the 1 minute, some of those weren't looking too clear for this area. So what I wanted to look at was the time frames either side. So the only time I use like the 3 minute or even something like the 10 minute or even like the 2 hour or the 8 hour, something like that, is when the POIs and the time frames are not looking that clear. And I would then look at the time frames either side to see if there's another time frame that's giving me a clearer picture. If they don't give me a clearer picture, then I just ignore that area. So this is why I was looking at the 3 minutes on this particular area, because you can see we had this POI here. We then had we did have it wasn't that impulsive. It didn't really break any lows around here, but this is the area that actually then started to create some more bearish structure and pushing to the downside. So that's why I was looking at this point here. So if we then look a little bit further to the right, it was around about this time of day, around 8 o'clock in the morning, when I was actually looking at this setup, and I actually set a pending order for this. And this is where it's now coming into the point where I actually shouldn't have been in this trade at all. So for my trading plan, let me just get rid of the RSI there. For my trading plan, on Fridays, I stop trading around about midday UK time, and I absolutely do not trade around NFP at all. So usually on a Friday, I then start winding down training around the latter part of the day, and I then start getting on with enjoying time with my family and all sorts of stuff like that. So what I'd actually done, I'd set a pending order around this sort of time in the morning. I think it's somewhere around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. I set a pending order for. I then got on with my day, and I actually forgot that the pending order was set until somebody in the community actually messaged to say, is anybody else in this trade? So the trade was actually activated. You can see here it was activated around about 10 to 2 UK time. So before that was activated, we can see this purple zone here. We've had 2 taps into this. It's just grazed these POIs. So this is the trap zone. So we can see we've had a tap into this around NFP time, which was at 1:30 UK time. You can see these 2 spikes here. We've tapped into these traps, and then we've seen price push into the upside and then tapping into the area of interest that we wanted to get into. Now, when the alert went off to say it was tapped into, and one of the community members also mentioned, is anyone else in this trade? That's when I realized I was actually in the trade. So at that point, we then had a bit of an impulsive push here. So the trade was open for, probably a good 10 minutes or so. We then had this impulsive push to the downside, and at this point, this is when I wanted to get a stop loss to break even, and I then set my target for just shy of this low here. So we've got this green zone. This is where I was the overall target would have been, but I like to have my targets just shy of it, and not necessarily all the way within this area. So the reason for that is, in case if I have my target about here, and where we've had this push through, if for any reason spreads was a little bit wider than normal, then it may then stop the take profit from activating. So I like to have my take profit, a little bit shy from there. It's a nice round number, 4%, and I was quite happy with that for the day. So that's what I was looking for this trade setup. And once I got stop loss to break even, it was either then going to hit break even and I would have walked away with no profit or no loss, or I would have been walking away with 4%, and that's what happened that day. So, and as you can see later on after this, the news from NFP has then changed the market sentiment. So overall, what we were looking for was shorts from breaking past this higher time frame demand zone here. And now the news has then shifted the market sentiment, and it's now given the markets a reason for the euro to now push back to the upside. So at this point, because I don't like trading around the latter part of Friday afternoon in the UK time, this is why I was happy to secure 4% from this and not try and target any further down. And you can see this has now worked out in my favor. And then after that, we then had a very impulsive push to the upside. But it's important when it comes to trading not to be greedy, and that's why I quite like having small targets around 4 or 5%. If the trade has potential to go further, then I like to maybe bank 80% trade volume from around this area and then leave the rest to run. But because it was the end of the week, I didn't want to have any exposure to the markets over the weekend at all. So that's why I was happy to completely close everything at about 4%. So this is my thought process for this trade and why I took it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.